I'd like to call the Wednesday, November 7th, 2018 Elyria School Board of Education to order. Please, Madam Treasurer, call the roll.
Mr. Brubaker?
Here.
Ms. Karstafen? Here. Mr. Bax?
Here.
Mr. Elick?
Here.
And Mr. Gebhardt?
Here. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just some quick introductions. To my far right is Board Member Jim Bax. To my direct right is Board Member Greg Elick. I'm Kevin Brubaker. To my left is Vice President Eddie Karstafen. To her left is Board Member Mike Gebhardt. His left is our Superintendent, Dr. Jama, and our Treasurer, Joy Clickinger. Board member discussion items. Any board members?
I just, one quick item, Mr. President. I'd just like to do a shout out and a thank you to Syed from AVG, our partner on the master plan. He really is a true partner. Went out above and beyond the call of duty in getting us a lot of equipment for the sports complex. And I don't know if Dr. Jama was going to talk about that or Jake, but it is amazing what he was able to do with, on another client of his working there, he found a bunch of old equipment and we're able to purchase a significant amount of equipment. Jake, did you want to?
Yeah, why don't you?
Talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
Flip it on the side.
It's on. You're on.
Oh, I'm on.
No.
Yeah.
Just gotta push it straight up. On. You mean the button means on?
Yeah.
Because I'm saying that on camera. All right, I'm on now. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. I got a call last Wednesday, late in the day, that we had a kind of a line on some, really a whole Bally's fitness gym that was going out of business, and we needed to fill our new weight room. So Syed was great. We went over there. He kind of brokered the deal for us, which was awesome. And so we're now going to be able to outfit that whole weight room, and as well as do some stuff at the high school and some stuff at Westwood and some of the other buildings that are going to be there. And we got a lot of extra, so at some point we'll be having to sell some. But I do want to point out two other people that stepped up this week for us. D&D Moving. I called them just to kind of figure out, can they help us? And we got to have the stuff out by Thanksgiving. They stepped up and basically are just charging us manpower, no truck, no fuel. So that's great, as well as Nick Abraham is allowing us to use some of his warehouse space to store all the extra stuff that we don't have space for. So they stepped up to the plate. So the whole thing, though, I mean, we're getting a great deal. It was awesome. So top to bottom, once again, a bunch of people stepping up to do the right thing for Elyria kids.
That's great.
Great, Jake. Good job.
So special thank you to everybody that was involved with that. I guess instead of having to buy a couple $100,000 worth of equipment, we got everything for about $35,000. So great partnership there with AVG, and appreciate everybody that helped out on this.
And I know Dr. Jama will probably talk about this shortly, but on behalf of the Board of Education, we want to thank Dr. Jama and your team, the administration, the staff, teachers, in the city of Elyria for seeing the value of issue 6 and passing that overwhelmingly with 60+%. So congratulations, a great job on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anybody else? Okay, presentations. Jake, you're going to introduce one of our guest speakers tonight.
Yes, we have Tim Delvecchio here. He's from the Ohio Schools Council. He used to work for Homeland Security. He did a safety security assessment for the district that he's going to. Can you get me? I'll do it. This is Tim Delvecchio.
He works for Ohio Schools Council as well as used to work for Homeland Security. So we brought him in to do a safety security assessment for the whole district. So he's going to brief the board on his findings over the last almost month. So we're sharing that today.
Hey, and you told me to be brief, right? Thanks for the opportunity to address the board and the community members. I used to work for the UN, and I used to do country assessments. And I can tell you that if Elyria was a country, it'd be in very good shape. It's almost like a dilemma. When I was called to do this assessment, I was aware of your reputation before I got here, and I thought, gosh, I hope there's going to be enough to write about. Because I think this district, I call it my Platinum Club members, you are in the avant-garde of doing interesting things, and I think your weight story is transferable to your approaches in security. There's not many school districts in the state that have completed Stop the Bleed training that you have. There's only a handful of schools that I'm aware of in the state that have completed the behavioral assessment training that's offered through Sandy Hook. You've done it. So my observations are very positive, but of course that's why you don't hire people to do assessments. You want to hear what some of the issues are. I think the big issue facing the school district is that we have a lot of old buildings, and I know they're scheduled to be torn down, and we don't have infinite financial resources. So do we invest in these older buildings with the knowledge that they won't be there for much longer? This is kind of a typical approach, so when people start thinking of security, they want to improve the security of the castle, make the walls thicker, deeper moat, wider drawbridge. But we have to remember that in terms of these active shooters, most of these active shooting situations are done by people that have a perfect right to be inside the school. And back when I worked for the UN in Kyrgyzstan, the U.S. Embassy there had been attacked several times, so they decided to build a brand new one. So basically what they did is they built a concrete cube with a lot of barbed wire around it. It was a perfect castle. I mean, you didn't get into that place unless somebody vacuum cleaned your clothes and x-rayed you. But the problem was that at the end of the day, people had to go home. So we had staff attacked at work. We had staff attacked in their apartments. We had staff attacked in meetings. So improving the castle is only a small part of this. But I think the primary recommendation that came out, and I believe you've read the report, I think the board should consider hiring a security consultant, an advisor, director, for lack of a better word, somebody to coordinate all of the good things that you're doing. Because we have a lot of training going on all the time, but I don't think there's really much coordination about how that's applied, that we need a coordinated approach to it. We have to make sure that training is directed to the right people. Also, we need a bit of a ferret to find where can we get this training at low cost, or better yet, free. You know, one of the things that came out of the Stop the Bleed training was marvelous training, but purchasing the Stop the Bleed kits can be very expensive. You know, those tourniquets that you put on somebody's arm to stop bleeding, they're like $39. And you use it once, and then you have to throw it away. So these Stop the Bleed kits can be very expensive. So I think that would be something for a security director to be working on. Can we work through a local hospital to get that at no cost or at a reduced price? Another thing, too, is consistency of operations. We have a lot of buildings here. Everybody's kind of doing it their own way. They're doing it the right way, same but different. Yeah, I think the saying is where, not to say anybody's doing anything wrong, but we need a consistency in our approach and in our operations. One of the things I'd also like to add too, I think we constantly have to tune up our training for active shooter situations. These kids who go to these schools, they're doing some kind of a drill every month. And you figure when a child starts in kindergarten, by the time they graduate in the 12th grade, think of all the drills that they've done over the course of time. They're like little Marines, aren't they? But beyond the drills, I think it's good to have some kind of formal education in security matters for staff. Are we training our staff about what's the best approach when somebody steps up to that door and hits the buzzer? You know, how do we size that person up? If we have an intruder on the grounds, has anybody had any formal training in how to handle a situation like that? I know we've drilled, but have we actually had any formal training? And has everybody been trained the same way? Again, it gets back to consistency. So I've been told to be brief, but those are the high points. If you had any questions, I'm here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I do have a question. I believe in your report, you recommended hiring a security advisor specifically for the building of the new school.
Yes.
So my concern on that is this an area that you feel we cannot take care of, or the state, our partner in this, cannot properly address?
Well, I've been asked to be on 3 different building committees. The most recent one done in Revere School District in Summit County, because they have some new buildings coming up. And we have a very good collaboration with the architects that are putting those buildings up. They asked me to be part of it because there was a fear, are we missing something? Because yes, there are architectural protocols. You know, there is a cake recipe about how to do this. And I think in the back of everybody's mind, because these trends are constantly changing, and there's always these new dynamics popping up, you know, are we really on top of this situation? And are we getting the best information that's currently out there? And I think one of the things that we look at when we're doing new building plans, if there's an emergency, the people in that building have options. Because we hear a lot about lockdowns. We're very good at practicing those things, and we buy special equipment to make the lockdown more secure. But the other part is, what if we had to get out? You know, can we get out of those windows, or is the school an aquarium? So these are the things that we talk about when we're talking about building designs and architects. I don't know if that answers your question.
Not really.
Okay.
I was just curious if us as a board should feel comfortable that the state and the ABG, our architectural firm, would have the knowledge to cover the same recommendations as a specialist.
Well, I think it's the committees that I'm on. They have a community approach where they have somebody from the school, somebody like me, somebody from the police department, somebody from the fire department. Yeah, these architects, they know the codes inside out, and a lot of them have been to special schools for security. But again, it's just kind of reinforcing that we're sure that we're right. Because once we pour the concrete, it's kind of too late. So we want to make sure that we're kind of ahead of this, and nobody's missing anything. And it would just be kind of an advisory thing anyway. It's not like this person's going to decide what the school's going to look like. You can take the advice or leave it, but it's just another voice that you might want to listen to.
It's 34,611.
Yes.
Where did that figure come from?
Out of the air. The Attorney General's office had $12 million in a bank somewhere, and they came up with a formula for $5.63 per student in a school district. So however that math works out, times 563, that's why you got that particular amount. Yes, sir.
I got a quick question. I guess maybe following up on Greg's. With regard to a safety advisor, what would you say, in your opinion, would be, let's say, the most usable or most valuable trait in that individual?
Well, I think the current situation is we have a lot of hard-working people that are doing bits and pieces of this stuff in their, well, I shouldn't say their spare time because they don't have spare time, but they're being dragged away from their educational duties to handle some aspect of security. I know there was one lady I talked to that she was really the driver behind the Stop the Bleed training. It consumed a lot of her time. There's other folks like Jake doing different bits. And again, just to kind of, I think it would be more efficient to have one person handling this. And one of the, I won't say complaints, but some of the information we received was some of these folks felt, I'm getting a little out of my depth here because I'm really not a security expert, but I'm doing security things. And it might make more sense that, you know, is there a retired police officer out there that maybe could do this better than me? And of course, that would have the spillover to where you would have better liaisons with your local law enforcement. We always talk about how useful it is to have SROs in the school. I mean, that could be one more person that could be armed in one of their buildings or respond to buildings for emergencies. Certainly somebody that could help with crime scenes. So beyond advising, I think you can keep somebody like that very busy. I know you have a very effective security force at your high school. I was quite impressed with these people. They do a phenomenal job. And what really was noteworthy is I think they must know every kid in that building by name. It was incredibly impressive. But I get the sense in talking to them is that, well, we're not sure whether we report the principal or the assistant principal or this person over here. And sometimes this person's telling us to do something. Sometimes the other person telling us to do something. So I think it would be helpful if we had a clear chain of command on this kind of a thing. Same with the SROs.
Tell me a little bit more about what role police and fire play in the planning or the construction planning of a school building.
Well, of course, they're going to be the ones that respond to it. And I know this is what the other committees that I'm on, that's why they're there, because I think you want to get off on the right foot with these people, because we're going to have to live with this building for a long, long time. And, you know, simple things like the approaches to the school. Can we get our fire trucks in there effectively? I mean, are there areas maybe to the rear of the property that they need access to? Things that maybe somebody in the architectural business might not necessarily think of. And again, you can take it or leave it. You know, at least they have a voice at the table. And if it's too expensive, or maybe everybody else feels it's unwise,
Correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. John, I believe, I don't think it's police, but the fire department is involved in when the school district and the city meet and go over the plans.
The police department are involved as
They're
well.
involved as well?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
They have been involved, yes, and they attend the city meeting as well.
Thank you.
And that's one more thing I want to commend you for. Before we had this board meeting tonight, we had a safety committee meeting, and I must say it's one of the better ones I've ever attended. We have a very good turnout. It represents all of the schools. People have different jobs within the school district. Very lively discussions, but I think very productive as well. And you'd be surprised how many school districts don't have that. So again, kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Caulfield. Appreciate it. Appreciate your input on this.
Thank you, Jim. You know, Mr. President, if we could, it would be interesting, since this recommendation, the first recommendation was to hire somebody to assist with the building of the new schools. I think it would be appropriate now maybe to have somebody from our team that is building the new schools let us know where they're at. I don't know Dr. Jama or someone from ACOM or Mr. Rigda or Jake or somebody, but it would be nice to know who is responsible for these security numbers. So maybe that's something we could consider for a future meeting.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Ms. Parrott.
Hello.
He
Miss
grabbed,
Ashley is one of my former students. She's going to be passing out a newspaper to you that we developed last year. Let me go ahead and sign in real quick.
Kathy, could you grab a mic after?
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did anybody get one? Check. Good evening. Congratulations again last night on the big pass of issue 6. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Kathleen Harrow. I'm an intervention specialist at Windsor. I've been teaching here for about 20-some years, and last year I had an awesome group of students in grades 3 through 5. Ashley, if everyone has one, you can join me on up here. She has our Windsor Flash uniform on. Right there in the chair. Yep. Good. Okay, so where did this all come from? Thank you, Miranda, for letting me present this. This is such an exciting program. In August, we get the chance to dream. All teachers in the district get the chance to dream because of the endowment grant. I love writing the grant because I get to go above and beyond the curriculum of what I'm doing and create something fun. Our school puts out a newsletter in the office. I thought to myself, there's so much more news than just coming out of the office. What else is going on in our school? If I'm not a second grade parent, I wouldn't know what was happening in second grade. So I wanted to share it. So again, building those relationships with all the families in the community helps pass our levies. So why not share the awesomeness that's going on around our building? In order to build this newspaper, again, I have students with exceptionalities. I had to teach them what it was like to run a newspaper. So I know some of the staff over at the Chronicle, and I invited them in. We sat down, we discussed. What does it mean to be an editor? What does it mean to be a photographer? What does it look like to have to work 24/7 and you don't know if you're going to work on Saturdays or not work on Saturdays? So we were able to ask them all these fun questions. We took about 2 weeks to do all these interviews. We wanted to make sure we really wanted to do the newspaper too. So it was fun to meet Mr. Bishop and the editors and the newspaper writers. Once we decided, yes, we're doing this, we had an application. They had to apply for a job. Again, I wanted to model the real deal. So I did. I had an editor. I had a photographer who had to learn how to use my digital camera. I had a social committee, and that was Ashley's one of her first jobs. She had to plan the press party, but of course you had to party when you get to deliver the paper. A layout manager who decided what page each article was going to go on. I had a publisher who had to call over to Amy Higgins' office. She had to answer the phone, and we had to say, we need 400 papers, and they actually had to call and order the paper. And then the delivery supervisor was also a great job because they had to use the school map, divide up the classrooms, and give each person a route. The bags over here were donated by the Chronicle as well, so every student got to wear a bag on their route. This is the magic right here. I did not know this was going to happen. Our guided reading groups became newspaper. We had to learn how to write a question. We had to learn how to read that question, and we had to learn how to figure out what was the most important question. When we interviewed Mrs. Roscoe, and you'll see her interview up there, we had to figure out what did we really want to know. Do we want to know her birthday or her dog's name? Or do we really want to know about the 3 B's? So it was so much fun to figure out what questions do we need to know to write this article, because what was the point? Miss Carla, if you know Miss Carla Baez, she was my partner in crime in this. She was phenomenal in helping me get answers out of our students and let them become the decision makers. So again, I'm not doing this on my own. I have an awesome team, but she was amazing. When we got to the interviews, again, they're reading, right? They're giving the person their time to answer. When they had the answer, our students voice recorded it right into the Google Docs through the Chromebooks. So it went right to my computer so I could start editing. But they were able to voice record their answer, so they didn't have to have typing skills. Took a long time, but it really worked out well, and they were part of the whole process. You can see Carla there helping out Adriana. Once Amy gave us a draft, it was very fun to give them red pens. They thought that was awesome because then they could tell me where I made the mistakes, where the spaces were, what words were wrong, what photos didn't belong, and that was hot stuff, wasn't it? You got to really edit the paper, and that's what real newspaper journalists have to do as well. Look at their work. So we looked at capital letters, and sometimes I would purposely make mistakes to see if they would catch them. These are all of our lessons. Delivery day finally came, and we had this huge box of papers. We had to count them out. We had to put them in our awesome bags, go down the hall. We even practiced for a long time with our speech pathologist, Susan Baker, how to wait at the door. You don't just barge in. Teachers are teaching, and say, here are your newspapers. They had to look at their clipboard, check off the name. In fact, we've got a couple great videos I didn't put in here, but when they went to Mrs. Roscoe for the very first time, I'll never forget, Janiyah just handed it right over to you and said, here you go, and she's like, awesome, I love my newspaper. I've got on the video. I didn't put it in here. So there's some great pictures. They're ready for delivery. They have their clipboards, they have their bags. They felt important. They felt part of our school. If you talk about success and what families really want to hear is when their child comes home and they're happy and they've done something important during the day. It wasn't the math worksheet on numbers 1 to 10 again. It was actually counting out newspapers and delivering them around the building. And we had a lot of great reviews from teachers. They were very pleased. You have two in front of you, quarter 1 and quarter 2. Unfortunately, I didn't keep enough copies for quarter 3 and quarter 4, but I bet Amy Higgins has them saved on her drive. So if you really want to know what was happening last spring, you can talk to her. All right, so this was really cool. We had each quarter, the press parade director, got to plan the party. Again, there's a lot of math in planning a party. How many cookies do you need? How many napkins do you need? What color decorations do you want? Again, with the ownership that they took over, I was just merely taking notes because they were in charge of their party. This is pink cookies. They wanted to decorate pink cookies, so Tara Friedley came over and helped us do that as well. That was really awesome. One of the final hurrahs is when we got to go over to the Chronicle and tour them. They were so awesome with us. They showed us where the advertisement was, where the sports writers were, the photographers were, and it was phenomenal. The 3 students that you see on the bottom are 5th grade students in the Gifted and Talented program. Charlene Hartley and the 5th grade team worked with us to have them help write articles in our newspaper as well. All right, so I tease you a little bit to say there's not enough space to list all of the awesome skills, but then I did it on the next page because I couldn't help myself. There's just so much. Being able to conduct an interview. Check out that 3rd one. Create a survey and then read it on a bar graph or a pie graph. That is one of my standards I have to teach. We were interviewing students out in the building and having to put it in our newspaper, and you'll see it there. Changing a font. That was easy for them. Learning how to do that. Count to 10. Being able to knock on doors. Plan celebrations. Sharing the good news with family. We have to share that good news. And Dr. Dahmer, you speak that all the time. All the time. We can't really worry and fret about what's happening, but let's go ahead and celebrate first. And then let's work hard at all those problems that we gotta solve. So, all right, so here's the big piece that academic services is always asking me. How are you actually grading them? Because it is challenging. When I don't do spelling chapters and I don't do worksheets, it's really hard to give justification of their A's and B's on their grade card. So this is a copy of the rubric where I had to take standards and give them 1, 2, or 3 points. What is always neat for my students and my population is when you can go beyond language arts and put in, see if I can do it right, speaking and listening goals. Being able to engage in conversation. Being able to ask and answer questions. That's always hard to put a grade on. So using the rubric is how they got graded. All right, let's see if I did this right. Oh, good. Yes. Okay. So thank yous. Mike West over at the high school helped us make our T-shirts. Again, the Chronicle team was phenomenal with us. Gave us our delivery bags, and I have a student that is addicted to these awesome notebooks. So they gave us like 20 or 30 of these, and she thinks that these are hot stuff. She's very happy when you give her one of these. Miss Carla, and Miss Hartley, again, were my partners in crime in this program. And then the communications office was amazing for printing all of our papers. So, any questions for us? We're not doing the paper this year.
Where's the answers to the crossword puzzle?
Let me get back to you on that. Maybe we can get them to you tomorrow.
On the rubric, how did you come up with the grading scale? How did you incorporate what they do to what you were looking for in order to justify it?
Good question. I use the Ohio academic standards that are extended. So I had to pick and choose which ones I really thought I was going to be able to cover enough in order to give them possible points. So I like using 1, 2, or 3 because it's just, yeah, did they do it or meh, or all the way. I had to really look and deep down whether or not I was going to be able to cover them. That's how I picked. With the variety of students that are in my room and their ability levels, it's going to be hit or miss depending on how much I address it. But because we did it all school year, they had ample opportunity to do it.
So when you did that all school year, each paper they put out, did you do one of these? And we're able to see if they improved from the first one to the second one?
Yep, and so did their families. Again, getting this home at the end of the grading period was much more effective than seeing a B on a report card, because families could really see the hard work that they were putting into the newspaper.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
No, just a comment.
Okay.
One thing that's not really highlighted here in your presentation is your fantastic attitude.
Oh, thanks.
So I think this is what, and so many times, this is what you bring this. And I think it's just fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, we're always really positive in my room. We work really hard, but it is a team effort. This year I have a phenomenal team, but thank you, Mr. Bax. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts? Thank you, Ashley, for taking the time to come. She was a phenomenal staff member last year.
Thank you once again, Ms. Perro, Ms. Roscoe, for an excellent job you're doing here at Windsor. The next item on the agenda is visitors' comments. The school board encourages and appreciates citizen interest in meetings of the Board of Education. Normally, the board will meet twice during the month and will make accommodations to allow public participation. Persons wishing to address the board for up to 5 minutes may place their name on the sign-in sheet indicating the topic they wish to address and make a written statement to request the treasurer's office 1 week in advance for up to 15 minutes. We do have one individual here, Ms. Jillian Riddell from Consumers Builder Supply, would like to talk to us about the new school construction. So, Jillian, if you give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Jillian Riddell, Consumers Builder Supply. Our business address is in 2509 Northridge Road, Lorain, Ohio, 44055. Very good. The reason I wanted to come in tonight to speak, I'm just totally thrilled with Greg's comments about Syed. I've been working with ABG, Syed, Andre, and those guys on your master plan for about the last 2 years. We are actively working right now to close up the contracts for Northwood and Ely School. There's some decisions that are about to be made in the next couple of weeks. And I wanted to come in and talk to you about how high profile of a job this is becoming. And there's folks coming in from Cleveland and from Akron that are looking to get the work on this job. They seem to be coming in at the last hour. And I just wanted to make a plea today to remind you that we are the last masonry provider in Lorain County. We purchased Murbaugh a couple of years ago, so Murbaugh is now shut down. But we have 7 employees that live in Elyria. Of those 7, we have 11 children and grandchildren that are students of the district. We have 1 employee who's a 3rd generation Illyrian. all three, his grandfather, his dad, and himself have all worked for us and been in Elyria this entire time. Our competitors coming in cannot say the same thing. So we wanted to make sure that you knew that we have been working tirelessly with AVG to accomplish their goal as well as your vision for the district. We have gotten some preliminary feedback that we are cost competitive at this time, but things change, politics occur, unfortunately. I just wanted to make sure that you guys know that your vision with AVG is the most critical, and we're here to support that as much as possible. We're very, very excited about all of the new construction. AVG will be coming to our office on Friday of this week to start talking about Eastern Heights. So they will come in, which is very unusual in our business, how actively involved they are with making all of the selections with us. So they come to us to make sure that they can get absolutely the widest range of options available to them. So we very much take their comments into account when we're making recommendations for materials, and they hopefully will go back and enact that vision. So I just wanted to come in and share that tonight.
Thank you, Jillian. I can tell you it's been this board's desire, as well as Dr. Jama's and our master plan team, to, one, get jobs local, hire local people. So we appreciate you coming in, and we'd like to see you on the job.
Absolutely. If you ever need anything, I'm 5 minutes down the road, and you can have my personal cell phone to make sure that we deal with it. We did do the stadium, and I think the stadium project went off without a hitch as far as I'm concerned. So beautiful. We were very active. That contractor is also taking a look. It looks like he might have Northwood. So we're in good hands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne.
Thanks, Jillian. Next item on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the board meeting minutes from the November 7th, October 17th, 2018 meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Elick, second by Mr. Gebhardt. Any discussion? Madam Treasurer?
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt? Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen? Aye. And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carries. Treasurer items. Madam Treasurer?
Thank you, Mr. President. My first item is to acknowledge, express appreciation, and accept the following gifts and donations as listed in your agenda. Number 2, purchase orders, to approve the attached list of purchase orders in order to comply with the district's purchasing procedures as detailed in enclosure G2.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. I'll entertain a motion to approve the items as recommended by the Treasurer. Moved by Mr. Bax, second by Ms. Karstafen. Any questions? Madam Treasurer?
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen? Aye. Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carried. Madam Treasurer, Treasurer Other.
Yes, I'm asking the board to appoint board members Jim Bax and Michael Gebhardt as primary representatives, and Annie Karstafen, Greg Elick, and Kevin Brubaker as alternates for an expulsion appeal hearing. The hearing date will be Wednesday, November 28th at 4:30 p.m. at the Administration Building on Griswold Road.
Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Do I have a motion to approve as documented?
Second.
Moved by Ms. Karstafen, second by Mr. Elick. Any discussion? You're both welcome. Madam Treasurer?
Ms. Karstafen? Aye. Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carried. Treasurer report?
Yes, I just want to point out some of the items that are at your desk or at your place. Everyone got a packet for the Capitol Conference that starts next weekend. Everything you need should be in that packet. Please remember to take it with you to Columbus. And I would also suggest that you take maybe a second to look over the agenda. They are starting earlier on Sunday, which means more people will arrive earlier. I would suggest you go Sunday as early as you can and get checked in if possible, or at least get on their waiting list, because it is 10,000 people descending upon Columbus.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Madam Treasurer, OFCC, OSFC?
Yes, at your place, I also put an addendum We got in the final numbers just this afternoon for the addendum that I'm going to read to you. It's to approve the change order 10 and change order 11 plus other miscellaneous costs to provide additional parking and close the current sports complex construction project. These costs will be paid for out of the Permanent Improvement Fund and will not exceed a total cost of $445,000. To replenish the Permanent Improvement Fund, all sponsorship and naming rights revenues will be deposited into the Permanent Improvement Fund.
Do I have a motion to approve the change orders as recommended by the treasurer?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Gebhardt.
Second.
Second by Mr. Elick. Discussion. Madam Treasurer, for the public's sake, can you share with the public where these funds are being paid out of and where these funds came from?
Okay, the permanent improvement dollar amounts were dollars, or the Permanent Improvement Fund has dollar amounts in them that were set aside for maintenance of the buildings. Okay, now we have turned from maintaining these old buildings to just getting by until the new buildings are ready. We also plan on the sponsorships, those dollars coming in, which actually come in over a 10-year period. But as we put that money back in, the sponsorships will almost cover all of this.
Great. Also, too, Madam Treasurer, what is the fund balance in the Permanent Improvement Fund right now?
It's right at $800,000.
Okay, so there are funds available in the Permanent Improvement. And then also, too, is there an annual assessment that goes into the Permanent Improvement from when we passed the high school also?
No, that doesn't go into permanent improvement into the fund I'm talking about. It goes into a fund for specifically that. So instead of Fund 003, it's in Fund 034. So it's the OFCC Maintenance Fund.
Okay. And
But
how is
that has
that
no
different
business.
than Permanent Improvement? Or is it basically for the same thing?
It's basically for the same thing. We can only spend it on new buildings.
Okay.
So the PI dollars that are in there, we can spend to, fix bad leaks in roofs and that kind of thing until the new buildings are built. That $500,000 can only be spent to maintain and upkeep the new buildings.
So after, with the $800 balance and the $443 coming out, there's going to be a balance of the $300 plus you're going to be putting all of the advertising monies into this account too. So we still are in pretty good shape. Great. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you, Madam Treasurer. If you call the roll.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen? And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carried. Thank you, Madam Treasurer. Dr. John, the superintendent action items.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would like to make the following recommendations under superintendent action items for the board's consideration this evening. Item number 1, to approve the out-of-state field trip for Westwood Middle School 7th grade students to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania with no-walk tours on May 30th, 2019, as detailed in enclosure K1. Item number 2, to approve the out-of-state athletic field trip for the baseball team to attend spring tournament April 21st through the 27th, 2019 in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, as detailed in enclosure K2. Item number 3, to approve the athletic field trip for girls basketball team to attend the Ohio State women's basketball game at the Schottenstein Center in Columbus, Ohio on December 2nd, 2018, as detailed in enclosure K3. Item number 4, to declare impracticality of providing transportation for the following pupils under sections 3327.01 and 3327.02 of the Ohio Revised Code due to the time and distance involved, the number of affected pupils, and the cost of providing transportation, and approve offering payments in lieu of transportation to the parent and or guardian of the following pupils who reside in the Elyria City School District. Item number 5, to approve the payment of stipends as listed below, $14.60 per hour, not to exceed 24 hours for required Murray Ridge training attendance. This stipend will be supported by the general fund. Item number 6, to approve the Board of to approve the Board of Park Commissioners Lorraine County Metropolitan Park District swim lane usage agreement for Elyria High School swim team and diving team as detailed in enclosure K6. And with that, Mr. President, that concludes my recommendations.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Do I have a motion to approve the items as recommended by the superintendent? Moved by Ms. Karstoffen, second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Bax. Any discussion?
Yeah, the swim, weren't we at the Overland College before? Or has that been a couple of years?
I don't know off the top. Was it last year at Overland College?
I believe so.
Are they redoing that as?
I believe they're under
Construction.
Any other discussion? Madam Treasurer?
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carried. Dr. Johnson, personnel action items.
Absolutely, Mr. President. At this time, I would like to make the following recommendations under personnel action as recommended by the superintendent for the board's consideration this evening. Item number 1, to approve the appointment of the following certified staff as detailed below. Again, these are for daily substitute teachers to help out when our teachers are absent and our numbers continue to grow. Item number 2, to approve the unpaid leave of absence of the following certified staff member as detailed below. Item number 3, to approve the supplemental contracts of the following certified staff. Item number 4, to approve the resignation of the following classified staff as detailed below. Item number 5, to approve the appointment of the following classified staff members as detailed below. Item number 6, to approve the new classified substitute rate, pay effective November 8th, 2018, as detailed below, to increase it to $9.50 per hour for the food service department, which will fall in line with all other classified substitutes. Item number 7, to approve the athletic supplemental contracts of the following certified staff, classified staff, and non-employees as detailed below. And all of these individuals have been vetted appropriately to hold the appropriate credentials. Item number 8, to approve the following game workers for their athletic service as detailed below. And with that, Mr. President, that concludes my recommendations under personnel action.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Do I have a motion to approve the recommendations by the superintendent?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Gebhardt, second by Mr. Elick. Any discussion? Madam Treasurer?
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
Mr. Elick?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carried. Do we have anybody here this evening?
Push it up.
Good evening. I would like to introduce 2 classified staff members that will be joining the Windsor team. Yvonne Roberts, she's going from substitute food service to lunch monitor. And Carrie Whitfield, she's going from substitute food service to lunch monitor as well. Welcome, ladies, to the Pioneer team.
Welcome, ladies, as she said, and you're at the best elementary school in the city. Mostly because I'm a graduate.
Did you graduate?
They sent me up the ladder. Let's go that way. Dr. Jama, Superintendent report.
Absolutely, Mr. President. Thank you for this opportunity. First of all, I want to thank Mrs. Pirro and her team for doing an outstanding job. I can confirm and absolutely agree with Mr. Bax's statement. She is a rock star teacher, and we thank you for everything that you do with the students at Windsor. I also want to thank Mrs. Roscoe and her team for being here tonight. Windsor's a great school. I have an opportunity to come in this building a lot, visit the classrooms, and I can attest that great things are taking place in this building. And in fact, I was in the restroom, and I saw your name on the wall, Mr. Brubaker. It's still there. Secondly, and very importantly, I want to thank the entire community. Last night was a great night for the city of Elyria, as well as the Elyria City School District with the passage of issue 25 and issue 6. Issue 6 was a team effort. It involved the classified staff, the administrative team, and the certified team to work together to get that levy passed. And as I said along the entire campaign trail, it was to continue and expand the great things happening in our district each and every single day. And I can attest and assure the community that things are taking place in our classrooms that go above and beyond, and our students are getting the best education possible. I think we're seeing that with our enrollment on the rise. I see that each and every day as I visit the classrooms, and I'm proud of our district, and I'm proud of our community for passing it at such a high level. I don't know if that's one of the top numbers of passage that we've seen as a district, but I consider the percentage very high for passage of a levy. So thank you to the community, thank you to the staff, and most importantly, thank you for our kids, because they're the ones that are going to benefit from the passage of issue 6. A couple other things I'd like to notify the community and remind the board and the staff and visitors here tonight. This weekend we have several events taking place in the city school district. On Saturday night is the Westwood Annual Chili Cook-Off. It's a huge event that brings in chili cookers from all over the area, and that takes place at Westwood beginning at 5 o'clock, I believe. 5 o'clock at Westwood. There's a lot of great chili. I know Miss Knight has already told me that she is the winner already, so I'm not sure what to say. And so again, the Westwood Chili Cook-Off takes place Saturday night at Westwood beginning at 5 o'clock. Also this weekend is the high school play, Alice in Wonderland. It takes place Friday and Saturday night at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock Saturday night, and then there's a matinee on Sunday at 2 o'clock. So please, if you have an opportunity, support the drama club and the Alice in Wonderland play at the Elyria High School this weekend. You know, it was so nice tonight to have the gentleman here talking about our safety audit, and I've heard it several times. As you know, my number one job as the superintendent is to make sure that our staff and students are safe each and every day, and there's a quality education taking place. But a quality education can't take place if people don't feel safe and secure. So I was very pleased to hear him say that we are ahead of the curve on making sure our schools are safe, but the audit does identify areas that there's always room for improvement, and I could assure the community and I could assure our staff that we will take everything very seriously and make sure that whatever needs to be improved is improved. But again, it was so nice to hear that we're doing things that other districts aren't doing, and that we have a great start on the safety and security of our schools. Flu clinic. Just to let you know that the Elyria schools this year, thank you to Denise and her team, provided flu shots for our students this year at each of the schools. And as of today, we've had over 600 of our students receive flu shots in the district, free of charge. And it's a wonderful program that was put in place. And again, hopefully it'll keep our flu epidemic down. We know with little ones, the touching and the flu itself is something that's spread very easily. So hopefully with the flu shots this year, it benefits us. And with that, Mr. President, again, I just want to thank the community for passing issue 6, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. John. Appreciate that. And again, congratulations to you and the team on issue 6. Next item, board members. Any information?
No information, but I wanted to mention, Amy, that was on all the publicity on Jordan Harris. Fantastic, really nice. But what was nice was so many different organizations or elements within the district coming together to get that done. And thank you, Denise, for putting a lot of that together yourself, and getting people organized, because that was really cool, very, very nice, fantastic.
You know, Mr. Bax, I did an editorial today in the newspaper about that. In my 31 years now in education, there are several things that are at the top of my list of just exceptionality when it comes to doing what's best for kids, and I'll tell you that ranks right in the top.
That was cool, it was really cool.
Anything else?
Just to let the board members know that I will be in Baltimore representing the JBS, and the report that I delivered to JBS, I will also report back to you, representing the school board at the National Alliance of Black School Educators, beginning tomorrow, Friday and Saturday.
Okay.
Look forward to the report.
I'm one of the judges, so I can't be bribed.
You know this is going to be on TV, right, Mr. Gebhardt?
I said I can't.
Everyone knows.
All right, the next item here is for the board to approve the first reading of the following policies and regulations and the deletion of regulation DJH-R as dictated in your agenda. And then I need a motion to approve the items as presented.
Motion to approve the first reading.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Ellick, second by Mr. Karstoffen. Any discussion? Madam Treasurer?
Mr. Ehrlich?
Aye.
Ms. Karstafen?
Aye.
Mr. Bax?
Yes.
Mr. Gebhardt?
Aye.
And Mr. Brubaker?
Aye, motion carries.